Hello, and welcome to Discussions with the Director. My name is Dr. Shileste Overton Morris, and I serve as the Chief Program Officer at the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit and Director of the Center for Schools and Communities. These discussions give me the opportunity to share with you how our core values connect with our work here at the Center. Our core values include service to others, equity in action, passion for excellence, and innovation for growth. Today's discussion will focus on service to others and equity in action as we talk with Samantha Ramirez-Herrera, an entrepreneur, storyteller, filmmaker, and writer. Sam was the keynote speaker at the 2024 Pennsylvania Migrant Education Program Conference this April, and her keynote was titled Borderless Dreams. Sam, I am so excited to talk with you, learn more about your journey, and hear your advice for others on similar journeys. So, Sam, would you just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, so good to see you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you all for having me. A little bit about me. I am Sam. I am an entrepreneur. I have a production company called Off the Record, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, where we develop like short films, commercials, content through a social impact lens. And I'm also a public speaker. But aside from all of that, I was also a migrant student, that navigated the public school system in the US.
So, can you just tell us a little bit more about your journey as a migrant student in the public school system?
Yeah, definitely. So I came to the US 2 months before my seventh birthday. I came to we landed in Phoenix, Arizona. And when I went to school, I remember like my first experience just being like really scary and overwhelming because already when you come from an immigrant family, my parents taught us how to just be tough, how to be, a kid that like you don't cry, you don't show emotions, like you figure things out. And they were so busy working, my dad in the service industry, my mom doing at a laundromat. So they weren't really around. And I remember my dad drawing out this map for us, like this is how you get to school on a napkin, and us having to walk to school on our first day. And having this teacher like yelling at me in English. And I remember it was so scary. I remember like my palms being so sweaty. And, I just like didn't understand the language. And it was a really scary situation that really made me not want to speak, not want to, like try to speak English because I had an accent. Like it just felt very overwhelming. And I just remember like the first time that a teacher saw that potential in me because they did put me in these classes that I don't know. They were like special classes, but they weren't really helping me develop. And so there was one teacher who actually really believed in me and she saw the potential in me and she exposed me to that potential.
Yeah, it's so important that as educators and as humans, when we recognize the potential in another individual, that we tell them that we believe in them and that they have that potential, and then support them in maximizing that potential and helping them to reach all that they can be. And so, as we think about your journey to becoming this great entrepreneur, can you tell us what kind of supports were helpful to you in that journey to maximize the potential that you had?
Mhm. So one of the first reports that I could think of is again Ms. Galvan, that teacher that saw the potential in me because she saw me and she looked at me when I felt invisible, when I felt like someone who didn't matter, someone who I even felt dumb, right? I felt like maybe I'm not smart,
Mm.
maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'll never fit in with everybody. But just her investing her time and saying, hey, like you have so much potential, like I believe in you, that made such a huge change in my life because she invited me to come and learn in her classroom after school. And she got me a chalkboard and some chalk and books. And she created this safe space where I could mess up the way that I was saying words without being ashamed,
Mm.
where I could read to her and stumble over my words, where she would tell me words and I would write them on this chalkboard. And it ultimately led to me becoming a national spelling bee champion.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, it is when people who support you, I think those are ways of support. Sometimes not just saying, hey, I see the best in you, but sometimes like giving you the ability to see that in yourself. Because I feel like that was like a moment that kickstarted me saying, whoa, if I could do that, I could do so much more. And so that was like really like one of like the biggest supporters that I had early on, because sometimes as migrant students, you don't always get that at home. And it's not that your parents don't want to give you that, but you have to consider that there's like this survival mentality that's happening. You're in a new place, your parents are trying their best to provide for you. They're also navigating their own challenges in a whole new world, language barriers, financial barriers. Like they're navigating their own challenges. So sometimes
Mhm.
you don't get that support at home. And then another person that really has been a great supporter, and I've had so many supporters along the way, but another one that stands out is my business partner, the CEO of an advertising agency here in Atlanta, who taught me that I was an entrepreneur, who said, hey,
Mm.
you are not good at being a worker, but you're a great entrepreneur because you have a lot of skill sets that are necessary for entrepreneurship. And he allowed me to see how he ran his business, how he was doing things. And then I was able to just pick that up and turn it into my own version of entrepreneurship through my business off the record.
Yeah, two things really resonate with me there. And the first is, again, that power of the tap of somebody seeing you and hearing you and understanding that the language barrier does not necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with your intellectual capacity, right? And then providing that mentoring that you needed to get you to become a spelling bee champion is a pretty amazing story. So thank you so much for sharing that part with us. And then this idea of the skills that you were able to acquire as a result of some of the challenges that you did face as a migrant student with a family who was just trying to make it, right? Wanting the best for their family and providing that support financially to have keep a roof over your head, keep food on the table, and I'm sure to encourage you in any way possible. But can you be specific about some of those skills that really translated from that journey as a migrant student into your entrepreneurial work?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like when things that I had to encounter as a migrant student were moments where I had to really be brave to
Mm.
say, hey, like I have to have the courage to walk to school by myself in a place that I've never walked to. I have to be willing to speak when I don't feel like speaking because I'm ashamed. And so you're having to like overcome these fears and these anxieties and show up for the moment. And I feel like as a migrant student and just like as a young immigrant, because there's intersections, right? Like as a woman, as a young brown student that's an immigrant from like a lower financial place. It was just having to overcome all those things. It was also like just like the skill set of figuring things out. Like, hey, like sometimes you just don't know, but you have to like figure it out. You can't just like sit by and wait for someone to always like handhold you and show you how to do something. So you learn how to figure it out. And it's something that's exemplified sometimes in your own family, because even though they're in that survival place, they're showing you through their actions that they're figuring it out too. So it's kind of like they're leading by example. And then it's also that resilience of like, hey, some things don't work out. And that's okay. You try again because you can't afford not to try again. You can't afford not to get back up because there's no one there, at least for me in my migrant home, that's gonna baby you, that's gonna be like, hey, like it's okay. It's like, no, like you get back up and you try again. And so I feel like those are the skills that have proved to be the most valuable in entrepreneurship, and also the navigating the unknown. Like we never know everything. And I know that we like to feel that that there's like a roadmap to get to where we want to get, but there's not. You're going to deal with so many unknowns. And so those are the skill sets that I have found the most valuable, which is like courage, resilience, like figuring things out and learning how to navigate through the unknowns.
Right. And I think what's important is those are all great examples of what we call a growth mindset, right? That you just haven't mastered it yet,
Mhm.
that you continue to practice, that you try and you fail, and then you learn something, and then you put that learning to use in the next attempt. And so I think that's a great model for our students and adults, right? As we navigate challenges that we face every day, whether it's in our professional or personal lives, that even when we don't quite get it right the first time, that we go back and we apply those lessons and try again. I think also what was interesting to me is this idea that you were able to um, kind of have this experience as a young person and understand the challenges that the adults in your life may have been navigating and still be able to really understand the love from which that emanated, right? And I think that's something, another lesson for us to take with us as we travel through this journey called life. So, Sam, you work in the media field, and I'm sure you have done a lot of impactful projects as you view things through the social impact lens. Can you tell us the project you're most proud of, though?
Oh my gosh, this is such a hard question. So I'm going to share three projects that I'm really proud
Okay.
of. I didn't go to film school. I did not go to film school, and I was undocumented for a long time until I got DACA. So I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder and like I had something to prove. And when I went into the film space, I came into it not knowing the formal or proper way of doing film. And so there was many times where I was looked down on when people didn't really believe that I was capable of doing like what I was doing. But the fact that I was just so, I would say like sometimes ignorance is bliss, that I didn't know all the rules allowed me to create a certain style of film that became, like in demand, especially for nonprofits. So three projects that I'm really proud of is when Stacey Abrams was running for governor,
Mm.
the two times, I actually worked on her campaign twice. And we did a lot of great work, got to work with her, got to really be like making content and engaging like young voters to get out there and vote. And to this day, I still work with her nonprofit that she started to ensure that people are civically engaged, that they have an understanding, especially people in our community. So I'm really proud of that project. Another project is we created a Latino PSA campaign for Get Out the Vote for young voters, and it actually won an Emmy, a Southeastern Emmy, under PSA campaign. Like to be an undocumented like filmmaker who never went to film school to be an Emmy award winner, like to me that's like whoa,
Amazing.
like it's so cool, right? And I think
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you so much. And another project that I'm really proud of is a project that we did with the Nature Conservancy, which is a global nonprofit. I couldn't leave the country for a long time because of my status, and I was able to get a permit to travel abroad. And I worked with the Nature Conservancy to do a story with the Quilombola community in Brazil, which is descendants of slaves who have been fighting for their right to the land that they have been stewards of. And who are protecting the land and the waters that feed so many people in Brazil. So it was
Mm.
really powerful to be in that community, to be welcomed, and to be able to share their story. It was like the first time that I was like, whoa, I can leave the country, but I'm meeting like these people who are doing this amazing work and who are stewards of the land and who have powerful stories. And it was about learning that there's so much that connects us than there is that makes us different. So those I would say are like some of the projects that have really been amazing to be a part of.
They definitely sound amazing, and congratulations again on your Emmy um, for the work that you've been doing. And it really is striking. There's so many, I think, myths about individuals who may be undocumented or immigrants, especially from Latin American countries. And the fact that you've done so much work around engaged citizenship, voting and supporting young people, especially, and understanding what their rights as citizens are, and the importance of really rallying around that right to vote to have their voices heard. So, thank you for that work. Um, I think I want to finish up just by asking you if there was any advice that you would give to a student, whether they were migrant students, undocumented, or just struggling to manage and navigate their lives as students in the United States, what would that be?
That's a really great question because I think that the Sam 2 years ago, before I was able to leave the country, would say, just keep working hard and you can achieve anything and you have to make your parents' sacrifices like worth it, right? And I think the Sam today would say, don't forget about yourself. I think that when you are a migrant student, when you are a student that comes from a different background that's not always privileged, when you are like a first generation student, when you are a Black student, a brown student, an immigrant student, there's so much pressure on you from so many different angles, from yourself saying I have to prove something, from your parents like wanting you to validate like their sacrifices and the things that they've given up, and then there's a societal pressure, and then there's like the pressure of like your teachers sometimes who keep pointing out this great potential in you, and then there's like you sitting there at times like questioning if you're really able to carry all of this stuff. And then you get attached to this idea of what success is and what the American dream is. And you stop being honest with yourself sometimes because you put what you want, what your wildest dreams are to the side to make sure that you can fulfill everybody else's expectations and validate everybody's sacrifices. And so my advice would be to take the time to self-reflect and to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want when I don't need to survive? We know what we need, but we don't always allow space to say, what do I want? And we don't always give ourselves permission to go after what we really want. And sometimes what we want will not align with what everybody else wants out of you. But I would say that we deserve to go after what we want and not just go after what we need to get.
That is so powerful. And, it really brings to mind for me, as you discuss the intersectionalities, me as a woman, a Black woman who's educated, who, came from, some challenging circumstances, as we all have, right? As we've grown up in this very complicated society, that it is about taking the time and having the space, right? That's that access and opportunity piece that is so often missing for, I think, our Black and Brown students, especially, to dream
Mm.
about what it looks like for them outside of their current context and circumstances to excel and be able to give the gifts and the talents to the world that are deep inside. So, one, I just want to say I am so honored to have had this opportunity to talk to you, and two, that I just wish you the very best for you to keep dreaming, keep sharing that wonderful gift that you have of telling stories through film and spoken word, and wish you the absolute best. So, thanks again, Sam, for taking the time to talk with me today. And I look forward to hearing many more great things about your work. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you are doing. I am certain that there are so many lives that you have touched and that you have inspired with the work that you do. So I hope that you make space and take time to congratulate yourself and to love on yourself and to continue to dream big dreams also.
Thank you so much for that. And I am going to actually put a post it on my uh, desk that says Dream Big Dreams as a reminder of this wonderful conversation that we've had today. So I hope you learn more about the CSC and how we live our values. Please visit our website and YouTube channel for more information. Thank you.